Justice Musa Umar of the Federal High Court, Abuja, on Monday rejected an application by the federal government to have Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan arrested for failing to appear for the start of her defamation trial. The government is prosecuting Akpoti-Uduaghan on behalf of Senate President Godswill Akpabio and former Kogi Governor Yahaya Bello. At the day's proceeding, the prosecuting counsel, David Kaswe, told the court that the matter was for arraignment, but that the defendant was not in court. Kaswe told the court that he served the charge on the defendant's counsel, which meant that the defendant was well aware of the matter. The prosecutor prayed the court for a bench warrant to be issued against the defendant for failing to appear in the court despite being aware of the charge against her. Counsel for Akpoti-Uduaghan, Jacob Usman San, told the court that he found the application of the prosecution strange and uncourteous, prayed the court to discountenance the application as it was made in bad taste. A trial judge, Justice Musa Umar, after confirming that the prosecutor had not served the charge on the defendant, said it was impossible to grant the application of the prosecutor and issued a bench warrant for the arrest of the defendant when she had not been served.
This defamation case of Natasha Akpoti that the federal government is filing on behalf of Akpabio and Yahaya Bello, first of all, is a stupid case. And the federal government will be filing a case on behalf of Yahaya Bello, somebody that the same federal government is prosecuting for corruption. And secondly, for Akpabio, these are personal issues that the Nigerian government need not get involved in as well in the first place. The case has not even started. Natasha Akpoti is already defeating Godswill Akpabio in court. It's a long way down the road. It's a very tall order because when the federal government comes against somebody, it's only God can help the person. But the case hasn't even gone further. You can already see that Natasha Akpoti is already defeating Akpabio. Akpabio is actually using every government opportunity and power he can find to quiet this lady. And he can't. For some reason, Natasha seems to be getting the advantage over him. For some reason. First of all, you have to look at it this way. This is taxpayers' money. And this is why it is important that we as a people make sure that we hold our government to account. It is taxpayers' money they're using to file this case. They will pay the judge. They'll pay the lawyer, obviously. So the resources, the lawyers they're government lawyers already, but the resources that they would have used to prosecute other criminals, they would then use those resources, allocate those resources to go and, file a case on behalf of Akpabio and Yahaya Bello. You're telling me that for the money that Yahaya Bello has been alleged to have stolen, he can't find money from there to go and, sue Natasha Akpoti separately, and Akpabio do the same thing as well. So the federal government would have to file a prosecution case against Natasha Akpoti for defaming Godswill Akpabio and Yahaya Bello. It just lets you understand the permission of corruption that we as a country allow. If the same federal government is suing and in court against Yahaya Bello, that same federal government is now fighting on behalf of Yahaya Bello against Natasha Akpoti. Can you not see the conflict? It just lets you understand. And for me, every time I look at this case, which is why I'm talking about it again, it brings to mind some of the things that the likes of Ali Baba talked about when he says Nigeria is a country that permits corruption and allows it to fester, and it corrupts and destroys everything around it. So the corruption in Nigeria is cancerous. And you can see just like cancer, it spreads if you don't treat it. And that's what is wrong with this case. It's a case where the government has no business being involved with. If the number 3 person in the country is accused of, threatening somebody's life, you let him defend himself in court. You don't file a case on his behalf against the person who is making that accusation. How with the federal government? So we're saying that now, every time there's an issue, imagine these. Let's just do a little bit of assumption here. Look at the case between Airpeace and Adam Soshomole, for example, right? Imagine that Airpeace decides to take this case further and accuse Adam Soshomole of defamation. So the federal government would then go to court and say they'll file a case against Airpeace. So at every given point in time, Nigerians have issues with their lawmakers or politicians. The federal government would jump into the case and say, let's go file. Is it just because of Akpabio is doing Bola Tinubu's bidding? Is the federal government filing this case and trying to prosecute Natasha Akpoti because of Akpabio is a rubber stamp person for Bola Tinubu and this current administration? And they have to rope in Yahaya Bello into the case as well. It doesn't make any sense. Again, like I said, this is taxpayers' money. They're not doing it out of their own pocket. It is our money they're using to do this work. The same money they would have used to do other things that would benefit the people, they're using that same money to defend Godswill Akpabio and Yahaya Bello. But again, I mean, like I asked, is the federal government filing this case on behalf of Yahaya Bello and Godswill Akpabio because this current Senate President is doing the bidding of Bola Tinubu, making sure that everything Bola Tinubu wants from the Senate, from the National Assembly, gets it? Is that why they're doing? So it's just about, do one for me, I'll do one for you back. What sort of country are we running? Why are we allowing corruption to fester? This is the same Yahaya Bello. So, I mean, just assuming that they were even doing that for Godswill Akpabio alone, that would have been one. But against a Yahaya Bello, the same person you're in court against for corruption. So when Afe Babalola had a case with Dele Faratimi, the government would have jumped on that same case and says it's a defamation case. It's a defamation case. Let them go settle in court. Why is the federal government getting involved in Natasha Akpoti's case with Yahaya Bello and Akpabio and bringing Sandra Duru into the case, the same Sandra Duru? Can you just imagine that? So we're allowing corruption to fester. We're allowing corruption to spread in our country. Nigeria is a country, we have fantastically corrupt politicians in Nigeria. Nigeria has fantastically corrupt politicians, and they're always looking out for themselves. And that's why we have this problem in our country, where corrupt politicians steal and the other corrupt politicians protect the theft. That's what happens in our country. The federal government has no business being involved in this case. You cannot say because she's spoiling the name of Nigeria. She has every reason to say they want to kill her, but she has to provide the proof for it. And that's what Nigerians are waiting for. Then the federal government getting involved in the case is out of their reach. They should not have gotten the case, gotten involved in the first place. And thank God she's already defeating Godswill Akpabio. If this one person, Nigeria, listen, if just Natasha Akpoti can, take Akpabio to the cleaners, imagine when a lot of us join hands together, make sure we make this government and these politicians give account. What will happen? And that's why I want to ask you, put your comments in the comment section. Let us know what you think. What do you think about this government, prosecuting Natasha Akpoti on behalf of Yahaya Bello, number one, and on behalf of Godswill Akpabio, number two? What do you think about it? Should the federal government be involved in this case in the first place? What is the cover-up? Is the federal government helping Godswill Akpabio because Akpabio is doing the bidding of Bola Tinubu? So let us know what you think. And as always, I'll catch up in the next video. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and also recommend this channel to others. God bless you for now. Bye-bye.